And as probably most of you guys know, there's been two big trades of the deadline so far, or as I'm recording this podcast. Trevor Bauer and Marcus Stroman. Stroman to the Mets, and Bauer was traded actually today to the Reds as part of a 3-team deal with the Indians, Reds, and Padres with like Puig, Reds prospect. So yeah. Speaking of this trade, actually, did you guys see the fight today against the Reds and the Pirates? I was actually watching this game live. Puig was in. This is kind of weird. Puig was in the game for the Reds even after he was traded to the Indians, which is just rare to see, because if you get injured, like, the trade gets... Most teams take their players out immediately after the trade happens because they don't want them getting injured, because then the trade, like, won't happen, of course. But obviously, Puig was in the game. That's why I turned on the game on my phone. I was at Angel Stadium, but I still wanted to see the Reds Pirates game. And then as I turned on the game, just a random fight happened. All of a sudden, the Reds pitcher, I don't remember his name, but he just runs off the mound to fight. He runs toward the Pirates dugout to, like, fight them. It was just a random crazy fight that we were watching. Me and my brother were watching live. And then Puig, of course, got himself in the center of it. There's no fight without Puig. But yeah, this was weird because Puig was in the middle of the fight backing up his teammates, which weren't really his teammates because he was traded to the Indians. He's basically on the Indians during this fight. So yeah, this was pretty weird. But yeah, anyway, let's get to the Angels situation. And this is the main thing I really need to talk about. The two main pitchers in realistic trades could be for Mike Minor and Matt Boyd. There's a few other aces that are like big time aces like Bumgarner and Syndergaard, but most likely they aren't going to get traded. And like 0.01% chance they go to the Angels. The big deals are the most likely, I believe, starting pitchers are Mike Minor and Matt Boyd. Mike Minor has a 3 ERA this season, actually becoming an all-star, and Matt Boyd has a 4 ERA this season for the Tigers, which is his best season so far. And yeah, I believe these two pitchers are not only the best for the Angels and the best chance that the Angels could get. The Angels should be only looking for starters in the deadline because we're in serious need of them. The past couple weeks, different pitchers have actually been called up and down to pitch because there just has literally not been enough starters to pitch. So Mike Minor and Matt Boyd are good options. But I think Matt Boyd is the best option. And he's probably the most likely option. Mike Minor has had the better year, but the Angels are looking for a starter that they would have control for more than a year. The Angels were looking at Marcus Stroman a little bit, but obviously he got traded himself. So Matt Boyd, he doesn't have as high an ERA this year, but definitely to me he's a better pitcher to get. So Matt Boyd is a younger pitcher, first of all. He's 28 and Mike Minor's 31. Matt Boyd is coming off his best year, and he seems to be getting better and better every year. With the exception of 2017, his ERA has been getting lower and lower every year. And I think a new team could also work out well for him. If he left Detroit, I think it could work out well. Not only is he the best pitcher to get, he's probably going to be an easier pitcher to get than Mike Minor. Mike Minor would probably be harder since he's had a better ERA this year, and more unlikely because the Rangers are division rivals, and they're almost contending themselves. They're like a game under 500 as I'm making the podcast, so they're about 500. They have not been having themselves... They've had a really good start and kind of fading. I think they're going to fade towards the rest of the year, but they're definitely doing solid. I personally think they should sell. I don't think anyone really knows if they're going to sell or like try to buy maybe for the playoffs, but I definitely think the Rangers are going to be downhill from here. but I don't remember who exactly, but one MLB Network analyst said that the Angels were front runners for Mike Minor. And this brings me to a point. I know I just said that I really hope the Angels could get Matt Boyd specifically, but I just want them to get a starter. I don't really care which one it is or who it is, whether it's Boyd, Minor, or someone I don't even know about. The big concern about this is, will Billy Eppler get a trade done? Billy Eppler hasn't been great with pitching during his time as the GM, but obviously he's been unbelievable with the lineup and hitters and even prospects. There's a lot of pitching prospects that are coming up. But he just starting pitchers now, it's kind of his only down spot. As you guys remember, getting Cahill and Harvey hasn't worked out. But yeah, he just hasn't been great with starting pitching. Hasn't found his good starting pitching. And I'm nervous that he's not going to get a starting pitcher in the deadline. And the Angels definitely need at least one more solid starter, or at least one pitcher to step up big time for them to have a chance at the wild card. But yeah, I just really hope Eppler could get us a starting pitcher. But obviously, to get a starting pitcher, we need to trade a few players. And let's move on to talk about who the Angels could trade in the deadline. I've been hearing, I don't know whether it's like social media or whatever, I've been hearing people say that we should trade Cole Calhoun, that he should be traded, which is just, I definitely don't agree with that. And I'm 99% sure he won't be in any trade talk. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, he doesn't really hold any trade value. His contract ends this year. And nobody wants to trade for half a year of Cole Calhoun, especially rebuilding teams. That's something like people forget. You can't just trade like a random decent player to like a rebuilding team. They won't want him. Especially like the Tigers, for example, wouldn't want half a year of Cole Calhoun, you know? And also the Angels are definitely going to keep him because this guy's loyal. He has good chemistry with the Angels. He's played his whole career here. If the Angels offer him a contract in free agency, Calhoun will accept it and stay with the Angels 100%. I definitely think Cole will stay throughout the deadline. It's pretty much a fact for me. And also, he's been great this year. He's on pace this year for 30-plus home runs, has an OPS over 800. He's a little streaky, but he's definitely a great hitter to have. And he's not only to mention, he's a Gold Glove defender. So he should stay, obviously. If there were to be an MLB outfielder on the Angels that would be traded, it would definitely be Brian Goodwin. But I love this guy. He's had a breakout year, and he is really valuable as a fourth outfielder, but I think he's just too good to be on the bench. And the Angels, I think they need a starting pitcher more than a fourth outfielder. I love Brian Goodwin, but honestly don't really think he's a fit here anymore. Because he doesn't deserve to be on the bench. He's just too good for that. Because Upton and Calhoun are both started at right and left field. So Goodwin's kind of stuck on the bench now for most of the time. He's done a great job, though. Don't get me wrong. He's done such a great job for the first half of the year when Upton's been injured. But now Upton's back, so he's not playing as much. And I think he should get traded somewhere where he can start in the outfield. And teams are actually interested in him. There's been reports of teams showing interest in Goodwin. Because Goodwin is just more valuable than Calhoun. Because more teams want Goodwin. The Angels have Goodwin on a 2-year contract, I believe. It's 2 or 3 years, actually. I'm pretty sure it's 2 years. So more teams obviously want someone for a year and a half than just half a year of Cole Calhoun. So bottom line of that, if the Angels were to trade an outfielder, it would be Brian Goodwin, not Calhoun. I also heard a few people saying we should trade Upton, which is probably dumber than saying we should trade Calhoun. I don't want to say dumb because people just don't know too much about like trade and stuff. I don't know too. I'm still learning myself, to be honest. Like I'm still learning about contracts and stuff like that. But so I don't want to say you guys are dumb if you think like Upton should be traded. But Upton, first of all, he's in club control. No, not club control. He has a no trade clause on his contract. So first of all, he can't get traded, and also he shouldn't get traded because teams, again, probably won't want him, and his contract's pretty big. Well, a few teams would want him, but he's not doing good right now, and when a player's slumping, he's not held as much value, and we want to see him. He'll get better, and throughout his whole career, Upton's been a great slugger, so he's going to turn around quickly. And then on to another player who I think should definitely be traded is Brandon Marsh. If you don't know, he's a top outfielding prospect for the Angels. But when he gets to MLB, he'll have no place here as a starter because once Joe Adell gets called up, he's the Angels' top prospect. If you don't know, top 5 prospect in baseball. Joe Adell will for sure be starting in the outfield next year alongside Trout and Upton, and also Calhoun. It's probably the 4th outfielder because he's probably going to get re-signed. This doesn't leave any room for Brandon Marsh or kind of any other outfielder. And now that I'm thinking about it, also Brian Goodwin doesn't really have a spot too come next year when Goodwin's still in the contract. To me, the Angels should be looking to trade these two guys 100% because the outfield is just full. And if you look at how much we need starting pitching, it's just crazy to me if the Angels if Epler doesn't go for a trade. And that's just the bottom line. I hope Epler could get a trade, maybe involving Goodwin and Marsh, but just get a trade done for starting pitching. And I think these guys should be and will be in a trade if a trade were to happen. But there's probably going to be a few other players that I'm not sure about that would be involved if the Angels were to trade. But anyway, yeah, I hope the Angels can get a starter. And the trade deadline ends soon. There's a few hours, or I think there's like a day left, something like that. That should be their only target, starting pitching, and I believe that is. You don't know 100% what Billy Epler is doing, but starting pitching should be the only target. But they might not do anything, as this year's deadline has been kind of lame because most teams haven't really done much. And there's only been 2 sort of big trades have gone down, Bauer and Stroman. And I hope more trades can come down soon. I'm excited to see what can happen. I'm assuming some more trades will go down, but baseball trade deadline just isn't as exciting as like other sports. It's not exciting as basketball free agency, but in my opinion, baseball's way better though because it's cooler to see more loyal players, stuff like that. But because basketball, like literally every best player in the game like has changed teams in their career, which is crazy. But anyway, yeah, I am done talking about baseball. That's it for the podcast. A lot of things I talked about. Make sure you guys listen to every podcast, whether it's the video version on my YouTube at Angels Vlogs or the audio version on Apple Podcast, on Baseball Podcast Network. It's also on other apps like Spotify and Google Podcast. I believe it's distributed. Just search Baseball Podcast Network, then Halo Talk under that. So make sure you check out my podcast. Check out my YouTube and Instagram. My Instagram's at angels.vlogs. YouTube's Angels Vlogs. And thank you guys for listening. Is there anything to talk about other than sports? I just talked about basketball for a second. I want to have a segment like after the podcast where I do like a quick talk about like other sports. In other sports, I kind of only mean basketball because that's the only sport I really care about, but other than baseball. But everything's kind of in the off-season except for baseball, right? Because baseball is kind of the only thing. I kind of love this I kind of love this part of the year because it's like only baseball you can focus on. I think football in the offseason too. Actually, this next coming season.